This is Label Shop Live. Now here I am. I've just entered Label Shop Live, and I'm going to go to the press schedule. And there's so much to this that I'm going to remain focused, and I will share with you videos about all of these functions over time, but it's just too much information to process at once. So here we are looking at the press schedule. And I only have one there because I don't want you guys looking at all the colors and everything and seeing how everything lines up. But here we are at the press schedule, and just say there's 150 jobs. I used to manage a press room with 300 to 500 jobs, so 100 jobs is not unrealistic. But anyhow, here's one job. If we click on that job, we'll see the job ticket and all of the specifications for setting up the stations and whatnot. And if you're interested, you can pause and look at that. But this here is a placeholder for what would be the artwork for that job. And what that does is you can this is in a secure location on the server, and you can manage this one file, and everyone from all over the company who needs to access the artwork, instead of looking at paper, they're looking at the one copy that is maintained current. And so this is a test image for a certification that I assisted a client in, that I'm using as a placeholder, but this would be the artwork for this job. This job is for product number product 0001, and these are the settings for all of the stations and everything that we're not going to go into now. Now, longtime fan said, I want an indication of what the customer wants. Well, this is the finish wind, which I would not put on the press ticket because I just want the press operator to see what he or she needs to see. But I went ahead and added it. And so what happens is the finished wind is decided at the front end. But different things can happen to the product along the way, so I leave it to the press room supervisor or manager to decide what the wind should be at the press, instead of automating it right now based on the finished wind. Although ultimately, once the system understands the paths it needs to go through, the press wind will be automatically dictated by the finish wind and the processes it needs to go to, and that'll automatically determine what the press wind is. So enough about that. So you have your job ticket and your artwork. But what's the focus of today is down here, you'll see it says no data found for the provided order ID. This is where the QC form, the form that you will put on every roll that the operator prints, every roll that the operator prints will receive this form. So what does that look like? Well, when the operator clicks through the schedule and comes to this place, and they do various things, one thing they do in the process is they do a QC check. So here they are sitting at either a laptop or desktop or tablet at their machine, and this form pops up when they click on the QC check during their setup. Now, I put this up here because I understand. I've been an operator for a long time. I'm a supervisor, manager, and everything, and I understand that we get hasty. So I want to remind us that if you don't have time to do it right, when will you have time to do it over? By John Wooden. And, you know, there's a lot of things to check here. It's a very important job. If we don't check all of these things, we might leave something out that ruins the job. So if we don't have time to do it right, when will we have time to do it over? Now, the flip side of that is, if we are meticulous about every job and we identify everything that needs to be checked, and we indeed measure, check all of those things, we are going to have many fewer instances of scrap, quality control issues, rejections, quality customer complaints, etc. So this is where I demand that my operators check every roll that comes off the machine thoroughly, even if I put in place a process that allows the machine to start up again while this is being checked. So I'm not proposing necessarily that machine stops, but that every roll is checked. So without teaching too much about the process, here's the operator at this place. Now I want you to notice this is what addresses longtime fans thing. It says here treat pens to use. There's nothing here. Minimum, maximum, nothing there. Treat tape, none, test. This is all because we have not determined yet what our minimum and maximum treat should be and what treat pens to use. So let's do that. So we'll cancel this and we'll go to where we establish those parameters, the press configurations. So now don't get excited. I'm still building all of this, right? You know, you can control the size and you can see, gee whiz, why do I have this color there? And we're not talking about that now. So I've got this top one set up. So this is a configuration, right? What analogs am I going to use? What plate, etc. So let's go there. So we just entered the configuration form. And this is where you would set up how a press is to be configured for a product, right? And I'm not going to show you how you do that. But right now, all of these stations, 1 through 10, and I can zoom out, and all of the fields always stay in view. And so 1 through 10, that's 9, and 10 is over here. You see how the analogs and tapes and all of those things are set up, right? And I'll leave how we choose these things for another time. But back to longtime fans' focus. He said, okay, Frank, how do I tell them what dyne pens to use, right? So we know what material this job uses, and I'll show you that another time. And based on that material, I'm the press room manager, I'm the supervisor, I'm here setting up how that machine should run, I'm speaking with the operators, whatever the case may be. We're setting up how this job should run now and always, right? And we're going to, based on the material, it happens to be a film. If it was paper, we wouldn't be talking about treat. We're going to establish the minimum and maximum treat, all right? So let's say that we were shooting for 39 dynes, right? So I might want to test as low as 36 dynes. And by the way, this number of dynes are determined by the pens. And these pens by AccuDyne are in increments of 2 dynes. So if I want to test for 39 dynes, I might want to go say, well, I'll say 38 is the minimum and 40 is the maximum. Anything above 40, I get into trouble. Anything below 38, the ink does not adhere to the substrate. And in order to do that test, I, as the supervisor, press room manager, owner, whoever, operator, decided I want to use a 36 dyne pen at the low end to test. I'll also use a 38 dyne pen. I'll use a 40 dyne pen, and just to make sure that I'm not blown off the screen, well, if I go above 40, I'll just use 3. I could check another one, but I'll just use 3. If 40 stays without breaking up, then I know I'm too high. If 36 stays solid, I know I'm too low, right? But I'm going to say, okay, by the way, we are printing with water-based ink, so we'll use this Scotch 610 tape rather than the Scotch 810 tape that we might use for UV. So I'll select the 3M tape that we're going to use, and I'll save that as part of the configuration for this product. This product is configured to run this way, right? And now that's saved. So now we'll go back to the schedule and we'll click on that job And now that it's been configured, when we click on the QC check, we see, and let me zoom, that's the beauty of this, you can zoom in and out. We'll see that the 3 pens we indicated to the operator to use are what's indicated on his QC checks. And the minimum dyne level and maximum dyne level that we established are populated. So it does math behind here. We're going to populate to tell the world what we measured. But as a safety, if that measures lower than this or higher than this, there will be a red flag. So now that we have all that information, let me zoom out a little bit, and we're going to check it. So, okay, the material matches the ticket. I check the material first because if the material does not match a ticket, I'm not going to bother checking anything. I've got to get the right material. Once the right material is there, I want to check the rewind and make sure that that's correct. Otherwise, this is a waste. Now I know which treat pens to use. Once I know that, I come over here and I say, you know what? I decided, by measurements, I decided that that's 39 dynes. And I used the 3M 610 tape to test this with, and it passed. Yes, the label measures that because that's the die I selected. Yes, the height is that because that's the height of the die I selected. The liner width is correct according to that. And by the way, I will have that be a number that the liner width should measure. Repeat of images, yes. This is going to be repeat of, let's say, if it's 2 around, it'll be 3 images. If it's 4 around, it'll be 5 images. One more image than the number of repeats so that we're sure to get a measure between every image and make sure there's not a discrepancy. Is the barcode verified? Ultimately, I'll have this so that when you scan it with a barcode, it'll come to the software and populate on your QC form. Is the eye mark correct? There are certain parameters associated with the eye mark that the operator will confirm are correct. Are the image-to-image registration good? Does the register from the die or dies to the image or images good? Is the register from front to back? That should be front. I'll fix that. Good if you're printing using a turn bar and flipping the material, and we have provisions for that. Does the text match the proof? Text matches. Yep, that's good. So then there is the aspect of measuring color and how it looks. And at the end of the day, we measure color so it looks right. So we have to look at both things. So on this side, we're looking at visual aspects of the product. On this side, we're actually measuring the parameters. And guess what? If all of the measurements are perfect and it doesn't look right, that's not a good product. If all of the product looks good and the measurements are not right, then I have to look at my process control. So we do both. So I decided that the opaque white looks good and all of these colors look good. And I'm going to do real fast by tabbing, and I'm sure your operator wouldn't do this, right? They would be very diligent and check everything. And just for this demonstration, I'm going to say that all of our measurements were at a DE of 2, okay? But what we're doing here is, this is the DE tolerance, and this is the actual measurement that the operator gets when they measure the color with their instrument. And so it might be a 2.0, 2.8, 3.0, whatever. For the sake of demonstration, I'm keeping it 2, okay? And this will ultimately be fed by a color measuring instrument. So they go about their business and they say, oh, the DE, well, this is the DE of that, this is the DE of this, right? And so now the operator, at the end of every roll, I don't care if the machine's running, you're going to check everything on every roll. At the end of every roll, depending on what is on the product, they will do these checks. If this is not a process job, these colors won't be here. If it doesn't have If it has 4 dies, you'll see 4 label widths and 4 label heights. So this QC check form is informed by the product specifications. So now we save that, and we see down here we have the quality report for that roll. Now let's imagine your client, your customer, your boss, your friend walking through your plant and seeing one of these on every roll of printed material. Thanks a long time. You helped me out, guy. I hope this comes close to approaching what you were talking about. I appreciate your feedback. I'm going to endeavor to continue to make this really address the things that we experience, the things we need to look for, and help us control the process. Take care, everybody.